Hey guys, welcome to the Syndicate. Today we've got an awesome show planned. I've got Will Weisman, investor, entrepreneur, faculty at Singularity University, and apparently a hobbyist artist on the line. Thanks for coming today, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'm really less faculty and more on the business side, actually, at Singularity. I do some speaking, but not formally a faculty member.
Talk to me a little bit about Singularity. What's the
Yeah.
goal and how'd you get associated?
Yeah, so I've been there for about 5 years now. SU, as we call it, was started about 10 years ago. Actually, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary today, or this year, excuse me. And was started by Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis. And these guys had this insight that basically the world was about to go through this really amazing transformation in the coming decades, and that people weren't really ready for it. They didn't really understand how technology was changing and accelerating, and the price performance of computing was coming down so dramatically, and that was having all these, and was going to have these really powerful impacts. And so decided to create SU as a place where people could come to learn about what was happening at the forefront of things like artificial intelligence and robotics, synthetic biology, nanotechnology. And we've got a really rich ecosystem where it's a combination of kind of in-person executive programs that we put on and our global solutions program, to large summits that we put on all over the world now, to some digital ed programs, custom programs. We have an incubator and an accelerator as well. And so all around kind of how you leverage these technologies, how companies can leverage these technologies to make sure that they're not disrupted. And kind of at its core, though, it's really about how you use these technologies to go solve the world's biggest problems. So how do you move the world forward in a positive direction by leveraging technology? So it's kind of a mouthful, but that's what we do. I'm an executive director there, run our large programs, and it's just been a really extraordinary place to get to hang out for 5 years and interact with some of the most interesting kind of leaders and entrepreneurs and inventors, and get to help think a little bit about where the world's going and hopefully direct it a little bit in a positive way. So
Sounds like a fun gig. How'd you get there?
It's the twists and turns of life. So for me, actually, I was thinking, so my background's kind of a combination of entrepreneurship and venture capital, and I was at a phase where I was thinking about doing something entrepreneurial, and had been going to TED for a long time, and Summit Series, got involved with those guys in the early days, and I was thinking about actually creating something that would bring people together to learn and connect. And a B school classmate of mine was at Singularity, and another friend was at Singularity. I ended up kind of running into this friend of mine who was there and telling him about what I was thinking about, and he started telling me about what SU was doing and how they were getting some of the most interesting people in the world coming through the doors, and then it might be a really interesting opportunity to kind of take what I was thinking about, doing these larger programs and bringing people together, and do it on top of kind of this amazing core that they had built, where they were doing small programs, mostly at the NASA Ames Research Park at Moffett Field in Northern California, and kind of grow something on top of that or alongside them. So, wasn't expecting at all to head in that direction, but one of those really just fortuitous moments that a door opened, and spent a few months kind of getting to know each other and talk about the opportunity, and so I ended up joining them when they were about 18 people, and now we're about 120 folks, 125 people. We've got 120 plus chapters kind of all over the world now, and about 150,000 community members. So it's been really, for me, the longest I've ever been anywhere, and really extraordinary to get to be part of an organization whose mission is to really help positively impact the world.
Interesting. Serial entrepreneur gets hooked. I want to backpedal a little bit. So yeah. You were an entrepreneur. From what I can see, you're pretty successful. You've raised a decent bit of money. You've returned a decent bit, both as an entrepreneur and investor. What's your background? How did you get here before there?
Yeah, so I would say, lots of ups and downs in life, like everyone. I've had some, some successes building companies. I've had some failures building companies. It's been a period of life working on a startup, sleeping on a couch, trying to just keep something going in a friend's office for a while. So definitely have experienced the lows, and also gotten to be part of some really great organizations and opportunities. I've always been super entrepreneurial, came out of high school and middle school, had a bunch of different companies, came out of college and really wanted to be around venture capital, and didn't know a ton about it, but spent a couple years trying to kind of work my way into VC. Couldn't do it. Ultimately ended up joining Intuit in their early days on the consumer software side. And it was just kind of one thing led to another. I ended up jumping from Intuit, got to see them, go from 100 people to a few thousand people and go public, and learned a ton there from Scott Cook and the amazing team of kind of marketing folks there, and then left to start a restaurant company, actually, of all things. I started a business called World Wraps with 3 of my best friends, brought in a 5th partner, and really just this extraordinary journey where we wanted to start a company together. We're foodies living in the San Francisco area, realized that this whole kind of quick service category that we have today didn't exist back then. So you either had sit down fine dining or you had fast food. And so started kind of thinking about, here we were, these young people, more disposable income. We liked, we were foodies, and maybe there's an opportunity to create something where you could deliver these higher end meals in a quicker environment. And so ended up starting something called World Wraps, and kind of our claim to fame was we invented the wrap, the burrito-like thing, and ultimately built that into a 30 unit chain before selling that, and then went off to business school and got into the venture side of things. I spent some time at Foundation Capital, which was really an extraordinary experience, and then Mavron, which was a consumer-focused VC started by Dan Levitan and Howard Schultz, the founder and CEO. Starbucks, or now chairman, I guess, of Starbucks, and looking just at consumer companies, and then a mix of other kind of entrepreneurship gigs and some angel investing, and then 5 years ago, had this opportunity to come join SU. So it's one of these things, the mix of the twists and turns of life, right? It's hard to connect all the dots and predict where it would, where this would go. But it's been a really interesting life, and gotten to touch a lot of different kind of industries and companies, and meet a lot of really neat people. So it's been fun.
You were founding businesses in middle school and high school. Do you think people are born entrepreneurs, or can they be built or trained?
I think they can absolutely be trained. I think a lot of people feel that drive. I mean, there's some folks who are clearly, right, just born to be entrepreneurs. They've got that drive to create. They're not happy with the status quo, or it could be they're not happy, or they see a problem that they want to address, or they just love the creative process of building something. I think there are certain ecosystems that help encourage entrepreneurship, and people who might not normally be inclined to be entrepreneurs may get an extra little push to go do it. But it also takes a certain type of mindset. I think it's I have incredible empathy for entrepreneurs. It's the highest highs I've ever experienced and the lowest lows I've ever experienced. And right now it's kind of interesting. It's fun. I was just remarking to a friend of mine. It's nice to be in an organization and not have to be worried about payroll and all the other things that go along with being a founding CEO and in the early stages of trying to get a business going.
So you were successful in the restaurant business, which I would say is one of the worst businesses to be in. What made you guys succeed? That's very impressive.
Yeah, so I would say it wasn't a huge outcome. So I don't want you to paint a picture of it being this incredible exit or anything. It was
30 franchisees is still pretty good, though.
Yeah, actually 30 company-owned stores, and so we chose not to franchise. Yeah, for us it was, we wanted to, passionate about creating something. None of us were restaurant people. So I think, like a lot of entrepreneurs, sometimes it's new eyes coming into a space that can see something in a differentiated way, and can help create an opportunity. We were, young, super passionate, willing to work 24/7 to kind of make this thing successful, which I think is also a really critical piece of being successful. And we had done a lot of research. I mean, we had looked to really try to understand what was happening in terms of a lot of food trends, and people's interest in eating multicultural cuisine, and more and more kind of discretionary food being spent kind of out of the house on eating, what was going on with healthy and vegetarian. And so we tried to kind of design something that we thought had a lot of kind of trends supporting it. So tried to be smart, but like everything, it's luck, and the market was at the right place. The market helped us in many ways to kind of get going, and the market also made it challenging for us as the dotcom, back in the late 90s boom started happening. It became increasingly challenging for us to raise money as a restaurant company. So, always hard. And I don't know, I would also say another thing is just kind of the grit, right? Of just being willing to drive hard, to kind of keep pushing even during the low times, and to, evolve and kind of change as you need to change the concept, and as you need to change yourself, and as you need to change the team.
4 to 5 founders is a lot. Would you invest in a team that big today as an investor?
Yeah, it's really interesting. That's definitely on the big side. There were really 4 of us who initially started it, and then brought in this amazing guy, Aaron Novoshen, as our 5th, and he was our executive chef and had all the food background. So kind of 4 business guys, I would say. Business people. I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it, but it's pretty atypical for sure. For us, I think it worked well. We had one of us who really kind of served the CEO type role, and then we each had functional areas that we were responsible for. We were also best friends, so it was like very, very tight group. 3 of us lived together. We socialized together, and so there was kind of the support structure there to make sure that or to feel good, I think, about that we would be able to make this thing work. But it was very atypical. Like, we did a common stock round for our first financing with a venture firm, with a great venture firm in the restaurant space. And so, brought in, I think also part of it is you get credibility from how you are executing and operating, and the type of people you're able to attract to your firm, right? And so we were able to put together a really world-class board and an investor group, and that kind of continued to buy us credibility and time to learn and grow as kind of younger entrepreneurs.
And then you flipped over to the other side of the table. How'd that happen?
Excuse me. That happened. I went off to business school and had a couple of years to kind of think about, what I wanted to do next. I mentioned at the beginning of this that for whatever reason, coming out of college, I was drawn to venture capital. And so always kind of had this desire to kind of learn that business. I got a little bit of exposure to it when I was at World Wraps. And I guess my second year of school, I spent some time getting to know the folks at Foundation Capital, and they had never hired a non-partner before. So I had an opportunity to go and initially join them actually as an entrepreneur in residence, and thought maybe I would start something. And then ultimately that turned into an associate opportunity there. And just a 2-year gig to kind of, learn the business and see how it worked, and found it fascinating. I mean, just such a privileged place to get to see so many companies and entrepreneurs, and kind of like Singularity for me now, think about where the world is going. And I always found that really interesting. And so I enjoyed it. There's times when you miss being able to roll up your sleeves and get in there and build something and create a culture and team. But also, very rewarding in a lot of different ways.
You're a post-entrepreneur that sold a company. Why go back to business school?
I was had a couple partners in the restaurant who were B school grads, and I saw that they had a different way of kind of looking at the world, how they thought about problems, the language of business, the network that they had. And saw that it had been a really positive experience for them. I also knew I was ready to do something else, and I wasn't really sure what that was. And so business school is just a really great way to get to spend a couple of years, at least for me, kind of learning and growing different parts of who I was. And then, meeting this incredible network of people. I mean, it's such a special time to be surrounded by, so many bright people who, are getting ready to go out and make an impact on the world. So for me, it was just really a terrific opportunity.
And then you get into investing. Talk to me a little bit about the thesis you had going in. I imagine you might have started a little bit of angel investing while doing the VC. Talk to me about what you were looking for, both at the firm and then personally, and how that's evolved to today.
Yeah, I would say, I was junior guy in these firms and working with the partners to kind of support them. I certainly didn't have as much experience in kind of understanding kind of the ups and downs of business and of building a business, and, thinking very long term. And, I think after being in the venture business and being an entrepreneur, like this interesting mix now for me as I look at angel investing and kind of understanding, the challenges around the early stage investing and knowing that, one of the things I really took away from venture investing was none of the partners, the companies that they thought were going to be the biggest winners in the portfolio almost never turned out to be the biggest winners, right? It was the companies that were like having a really hard time, struggling for a while, that all of a sudden either the market caught up with them or they changed their business model or the right leadership came in, and all of a sudden, those companies ended up accelerating. And those are really, those are tough decisions on whether or not you continue to back companies, during these really hard times. And just to kind of see that and learn from that has affected how I think about angel investing now. And, I look for, I think, very different types of opportunities than I was looking for then. Again, just kind of time gives you a perspective. Very much focused on people now. And back then it was people, but it was more kind of, I don't know, now I would say that's become the biggest piece, like really just trying to find amazing teams who are passionate about trying to build something, because that it's going to go through a bunch of different iterations, right? And so you need a group that is, cannot accept failure, absolutely has to win, is passionate about solving a problem, takes advice from you and, doesn't always follow it, but listens and incorporates, does change and evolve. So that's kind of one of my major driving elements that I look for now. And obviously the technological piece of it right now. I have, I would not position myself as being a technologist, but I get to see a lot of different things now and get a sense of where the world is going and how these different technologies are going to have a big impact, and really, trying to think through, okay, this might be an interesting business right now, but knowing what's, coming down the pike, is this, will this even be a business, in 3 years or 5 years, as retail potentially disappears or as auto ownership disappears, and thinking about some of the longer trends. So I'm really very much focused on trying to find companies that I think fit, some of this longer term viewpoint and mindset as well.
Is there a Singularity University Opportunity Fund?
There is not.
And if so, why not?
We've talked about it and are talking about it right now. It's just something has not been a priority, and it takes a certain skill set. We actually had, when I first joined, we had just hired someone who literally, like within a couple weeks of joining SU to build out this fund, got poached away by Bill Gates to go run a fund for him. A tough opportunity to say no to. And then, just kind of things took us in a different direction. So we're actually, I think, going to come back and potentially revisit that. There's no question it's a really interesting ecosystem, and so many different, entrepreneurs, speakers, exposure to different technologies, universities come as a result of SU, and lots of, whether it's our summer program that has a focus on starting companies or the incubators or accelerators, there's just a ton of amazing dynamic companies that are kind of spinning around there.
Wouldn't you be an obvious fit for that?
Perhaps, we'll see. I mean, I'm kind of happy doing my syndicate. Yeah, I mean, it's it takes a, it might be. We'll see what happens there. But right now, good. I'm building out these programs, getting to do what I love to do, doing a bunch of this investing and putting together syndicates on the side, and that's been working great for me.
So that was totally a yes. So talk to me about the painting. How'd you get into painting? What do you do in your spare time?
So, I've been kind of a long-term hobbyist painter. This is, as I mentioned, this is a piece that's in progress, and do lots of kind of gesso and acrylic underpainting, and then glazes on top of it, oil-based glazes, and, just into kind of abstract, large pieces that have a lot of energy to them. So love to paint. I don't do it enough. I would say I am, my favorite hobby is kite surfing. And so, whenever I have time to get on the water, that's something I absolutely love to do, and I'm super passionate about as well.
Do you think the art hobby specifically helps you as an investor or as a innovator, thought leader, business person?
I think art helps you look at the world in a different way, and see, you just notice things in a different way. I think it makes you more observant, actually. And so I think that potentially serves you well as an investor, and gives you the opportunity to kind of, look at, to notice things maybe that other people might not notice and latch onto. It's an interesting question. I've never really thought about it, but my guess is it probably doesn't hurt. I'm not sure that it's a major driver of anything, but I think does in general make you more sensitive to kind of how you look at the world.
Let's double down. What are some things that you notice that conventionally others don't?
I'm very aware of people, and sensing like what's going on with them, how they're interacting, and the subtle messages that people are giving off in general. I think for whatever reason, have always been able to connect with people and form teams and support individuals, create very supportive individual or team environments because of my ability to kind of connect with folks. I don't know where that comes from, but that's something like for me, if my life is about forming long-term, deep relationships with people, like that's what gives me a lot of satisfaction. It's what makes my life rich. And, I think an ability to kind of connect with individuals is an important piece. What else I would say that I see that others don't see?
What about on the trends, business side of things, ways you see the future headed that others don't necessarily perceive or believe?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually been kind of spending time kind of thinking about how I do an increasingly better job of noticing things. I mean, I think I tend to get involved with things early, like I see things early. It hasn't always transformed into making investments in them. And, I was thinking particularly around kind of what's going on with all the, blockchain, token, Web 3.0 stuff. I mean, we've been looking at that world for a while and talking about it at the different events that we put on. But, I didn't start doing a deeper dive into that and really thinking about it from an investment perspective until, kind of early last year. So early 2017. And so that's, there's all this going on, and we're exposed to things that, like, I got a chance. One of the very first investment I made as an angel investor, as I started doing these syndicates, actually, as a syndicate investor, I should say, was in this company called 1Qubit, and it was a quantum computing software company. And so that was one where, okay, I was starting to hear more and more about quantum. This was 2015. So I'd started hearing about quantum in 2013 and 2014. And there was this company that was in the SU ecosystem. And that was one where I saw something, believed that there was going to be, an increasing trend, and that this could be kind of a, paradigm shift in computing, and important to get involved with it. So I think there's some examples where I've been able to see this and actually turn it into action. I think one of the key things of being an angel investor, I think, is being able to spot these trends early and act on them, and make sure you've got when you've got something as big, or what could be as potentially big as like Web 3.0. I mean, just should have made a bunch of investments at that point, 2014, 2015, you almost could not have gone wrong at that point.
It's okay. That's how it works. As long as you fine tune the old bullshit meter.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Your black box is getting better.
Right.
What are you most excited about today?
So, man, there's so much to be excited about. It's really like, this is one of the most extraordinary, I think the most extraordinary time to be alive. I mean, there's so much, it's interesting, we talk about, there's so much negative news out there, but if you look at the data, right, this is actually the best time ever to be alive as a human being. And it's getting better on almost every metric that you look at. And so So that's incredibly exciting for me. I mean, I'm really interested in this transition right now. And I think we're going to go through this very intense period in the next kind of 10, 15 years as technology does start to change the work landscape and what it means to work. And you know, we've gone through these periods where there's been this profound technological change that has changed employment opportunities, but it's happened in kind of a broader range or broader period of time. And this is going to happen in a very compressed period of time. And so I think that's going to create incredible opportunities as well as incredible challenges. I think that this is, you know, an amazing opportunity for humanity to continue moving forward in a positive way. Peter Diamandis, who I work with, talks a lot about abundance, which you may have heard about. You know, the technology is driving down the costs of almost everything, right? Very deflationary and making many things that were prohibitively expensive kind of ubiquitous and available to everyone. And so all these things are, you know, speak very well to providing, you know, huge opportunities to developing parts of the world to come online, you know, have access to all the world's information, to contribute. So I'm super excited about, you know, these kind of general themes that are happening. I think all the, you know, Web 3.0 is just extraordinary in its potential to kind of change the world. And there's so many people who are, you know, really trying to improve the world and move it, you know, forward in a positive way. Like that to me is really exciting, whether that's enabling individuals to kind of take back their personal information and to create, you know, privacy, whether it's figuring out ways to kind of get around censorship or, you know, kind of blockchain-based VPN solutions, solutions around energy. I mean, there's so many like major big ideas that are out there that are really exciting. I'd say one of the things I'm really excited about, I'm not actively investing in this area, but is just what's happening on the energy front. I mean, it's so clear now that renewables are going to win, that solar is going to win. I mean, if you keep following the trend line, like there's no way that any of these fossil fuel technologies are going to be the economic winner here. And so just like that, to me, there's a lot of things now that are moving society and moving the world forward in a positive direction that are driven by technology, reducing the economic costs of these things.
Completely agree. The problem with news is it's on a short-term basis, which incentivizes negative. Long-term basis incentivizes positive. But we're never going to have the once a month or once a year newspaper, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's such a disservice to humanity, you know, and creates all this kind of angst and anger and tension and this like bifurcation, and it's, you know, and it's not true, right? So it's like, I don't know, it's a really interesting problem to think about how you get truthful, factual, or a balanced coverage out there so people really have a better sense of, you know, there's so much to be excited about. And there's tons, I mean, we saw in this election, right? There's so many people who are being hurt or left behind because of some of these changes. But there's no question we have the resources to go out there and help these people and move the world forward. We just have to decide to spend our money in a different way and decide, you know, what our priorities are.
If it bleeds, it leads. And this Trump tariff thing is going to be interesting. Jesus Christ. I want to jump into the lightning round. How's that sound?
Yeah, great.
So you told me the first investment you made. How about the second one?
So let's see. The second one was a company called Kezar Life Sciences, which is an immunotherapy company. It was spun out of Amgen, I think back in 2015 as well. So a friend who was, became the CEO there, had that opportunity. So a chance to partner up with some really, really smart folks with some, you know, deep IP and now gone on to raise, I think like 73 million bucks and nice up round and long way to go still. But you know, solving a big problem with some great technology and a great team. So really excited to be part of that one.
Let's follow up on that. 2 biggest wins to date in terms of investing.
So 1QBit that I mentioned earlier. So, you know, I've only been doing these syndicates around SU over the last 3 years. So I haven't had any exits yet, but I've had a bunch of, you know, really nice follow-on up rounds. 1QBit just did a $35 million round, really, you know, nicely up round. So that one's looking really great. And Ripcord is another company that I'm really proud about that is a machine vision robotics company focused on scanning paper documents, and amazing team, amazing CEO, came in as a seed investor there. They've now raised, I think, like almost $60 million and brought in folks like Google Ventures and Kleiner and just really, really great group of investors. If you can imagine kind of a, hangar-sized space filled with all these robots that are loading paper into these scanners, that are removing paper clips and staples and then scanning them at high speed and then adding intelligence around them. And so, really interesting, still tons of paper out there, tons of paper docs that are being stored out in the Iron Mountains of the world. I think this, going after a multi-billion-dollar opportunity there that seems to be executing really well, and excited to have been early there and get to participate in the follow-ons there. So
might make government a little less inefficient. Any anti-portfolio biggest misses?
So the biggest miss for me, I would say, is a company called Success Factors. And I wasn't doing angel investing really at the time, but this was a foundation capital portfolio company where I knew this guy, amazing entrepreneur, Lars Dahlgaard, had met him at business school, brought him in to be the CEO, actually moved into this company for a couple months, and they were trying to he was trying to get it going and to help him try to figure out, how to turn this thing around and essentially kind of relaunch this whole business. And that was one where, it wasn't clear what the outcome was going to be, but it was an incredible entrepreneur who, could just move mountains and did move mountains, and ultimately took the company public and ultimately sold it for like $4 billion to SAP. And that was one where I had enough time to kind of, watch it, that I should have been pushing hard to figure out a way to get some money into that company. So that's probably my biggest regret. Great opportunity, was right there from the get-go, and didn't for whatever reason flip into how could I find an investment opportunity for myself.
It happens. Other than ICOs, what's overhyped?
AI is overhyped, I think. There's a lot of hype around it for a very good reason, but there's just so much, so much money going into it, so many companies spooling up. I think that's an area where, there's probably too much happening, and there'll be a reckoning at some point. But I think there's also going to be just an extraordinary amount of, new, very important companies that are going to get launched there, an incredible amount of M&A activity that's going to happen as well. So lots of good opportunities for people, but lots of companies that I think will disappear as well.
Keep in mind that, guys. I give you $100 million. You get to go try to solve one business, world, etc. problem. What are you trying to do, and who are you bringing with you?
Wow, $100 million. I think I would probably try to do something. I don't know, man, that is a great question. $100 million. I mean, maybe it would be to go and figure out this, how to help people realize that there's so much positive going on in the world. I don't know if that's really my right answer, but I mean, I think this fact that, I'm really concerned with the world kind of separating as opposed to coming together, and what's happening on kind of this, more and more kind of nationalistic focused leaders who are emerging. And I think that's the opposite of what the world needs. So maybe some effort that would help us try to bring the world together. I'm not sure that that's a great investment as an ROI, but something I'm certainly passionate about. And I would say anything that I could do to help accelerate the price curve of solar would be, an important thing. I think just ubiquitous, environmentally friendly energy for the world is a hugely important problem, and the sooner that can get solved, I think the better off we'll all be.
If you get that deal going on making people friendlier, and then you get some kind of deal with countries around the world where you take 0.5% of the GDP increase, you could make some serious money.
Right. That's right. connected into the blockchain, and yeah, exactly. Probably
everybody audits it, all that good stuff. Podcast, blogs, where do you go to on a daily, weekly basis to stay informed?
So let's see. I go to the Full Ratchet, I think is an interesting site. I go to How I Built This, Origins, which is a story about starting venture funds, which is something that I think about, at some point potentially spooling up my own fund. Love listening to Sam Harris. He's got a podcast called Waking Up. So I think those are some of the places, This American Life. So it's just amazing, right? How many incredible podcasts there are these days. And anytime you want to, in any topic you're passionate about, someone's out there who's an expert on it talking about it.
Absolutely. Those are some great ones. Don't forget the Syndicate, of course. That's one.
And of course, the Syndicate. I didn't want to be too self-serving here.
Oh, no, it's okay. I can be self-serving occasionally. just occasionally. Will, thanks for coming on. What is the one thing I should have asked you about that I haven't, or that you want to talk about?
We talked about it a little bit, but I mean, I think this is an incredibly important time for humanity, probably the most important time we've ever had, and people need to be paying attention and really, really engaged. I think, what happens over the next 10 to 20 years is going to set the trajectory for humanity. And what the world looks like. And it's just there's going to be so much change taking place. Paying attention, being engaged, connecting on a global basis, I think is so critical. And so I guess I would love for that to be my closing statement. Stay engaged. This is really an important time for folks, and an incredibly exciting time.
It is incredibly exciting, and you're at that center of innovation. Where's the best place for people to say hey?
They could shoot me an email at Singularity, I guess, WWEISMAN@singularityU.org is a great place to reach me. They can follow me on Twitter as well at Weisman.
Awesome. We'll throw links and all of that great stuff into the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and thanks for coming on, Will.
Matt, thanks so much.
And of course, guys, if you haven't yet subscribed, left a review, the syndicate.vc/iTunes. It's very important for us to outrank all of those incredibly big podcasts so that we can get more awesome guys like Will on the show. Thanks again, Will.
Thank you, Matt. Take care, my friend.
Yep. Cheers.